如果你在聆听时不需要频繁暂停，就能理解大意，那么你的英语积累在日常表达中是完全够用的。我们开始吧。
A boy once asked an old baker why 13 felt safer than 12. The baker just smiled, like he knew a secret that bread itself had whispered to him. The story begins in a town that smelled like warm dough at sunrise. People woke before the light because bread did not wait. It swelled. It rose. It lived its own small life. And the bakers followed its clock. In that town stood a shop with a crooked door and a sign that creaked when the wind pushed it. Folks said the bread there tasted like comfort. They also said the baker there feared nothing except one thing, being short. Not short in height. Short in count. Back then, rules around bread were sharp as knives. If a baker sold a loaf that was too small, even a little, trouble came fast. Fines came first. Shame came next. And folks talked. In a small town, talk was heavy. It stuck to you. So every morning, the baker rose before the sun and weighed each loaf. His hands were rough and strong, but they trembled when the weight felt close. One winter morning, after a long night of storms, the flour felt strange. The dough rose slow. The air was cold. His fire fought to stay alive. He shaped each loaf and prayed they were right. That same day a thin man in a dark coat walked in. People called him the checker. He showed up without a sound and left without a smile. His job was simple: count and judge. The baker handed him a basket of 12. The checker lifted one loaf. He pressed his thumb on the side. He did not speak. He just waited in his hand like he could hear the truth hiding inside. The baker felt his stomach twist. He knew the weight was close. Too close. If the loaf failed the test, he would pay with his money. Maybe his name. Maybe his shop. The checker placed the loaf down. Then he looked at the baker. His eyes said everything. The baker knew the count was not enough. That night the baker could not sleep. He stared at the cracked ceiling. He thought about the 12 in the basket. And he thought about how one missing ounce could break years of honest work. So before dawn he made a choice. He got up. He lit his fire. He shaped the dough with new hands. These hands did not tremble. These hands decided something simple and strong. From that day on, he would give 13. 13 for every dozen. One extra for safety. One extra for honesty. One extra because fear should not control a good man's work. He never wrote this rule down. He just lived it. And folks noticed. People loved the feeling of getting more than they paid for. It made them trust him. It made them talk about him in warm ways. And when they told the story, they told it with pride. Soon other bakers heard the tale. They liked the sound of 13. It felt safe. It felt wise. It felt like a promise you could hold in your hands. A promise that said, I will not cheat you. Not even by accident. Years passed. The town changed. The crooked sign broke. The old baker grew slower. But the extra loaf stayed. It moved from shop to shop. From town to town. From baker to baker. It crossed seas. It crossed years. It became a habit so old that people forgot where it started. But some stories do not vanish. They hide in small phrases. Phrases like a baker's dozen. 13. A small number. But full of worry, fear, pride, trust, and the soft sound of fresh bread cooling on an old wooden table. And the boy who asked the baker why 13 felt safer than 12. He stood in that shop many years later, after the old baker had passed. Another baker worked there now. Younger. Louder. But kind. The boy, now grown, asked that same question again. The young baker wiped flour from his hands and pointed at a basket of warm rolls. 12 fills the basket, he said. 13 fills the heart. The boy laughed, though he wasn't sure why. It felt true. Simple truths often do. When the boy left the shop, he thought about the extra roll. He thought about how small things could carry whole stories. He thought about how fear can turn into care if someone chooses it. And he thought about the old baker who had refused to let one winter morning ruin his name. Now here you are, listening to this story. Maybe you have your own extra loaf. A thing you give even when no one asks. A thing that shows what kind of person you are. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's kindness you hand out when your own day feels thin. A baker's dozen is not really about bread. It's about giving more than the world asks for. It's about showing who you are when no one is counting. And maybe, just maybe, that's the part worth remembering.
作为一个母语非英语的人，能把故事听完，你的进步太大了。感谢你收看这个节目。如果你觉得这个节目对你有帮助，请给我一个点赞，或者留下评论，这对我很重要。我们下个视频见。